How did we get here? We're here. I know this video was coming. My favorite show, The Flash. It wasn't perfect the whole time. It had some bright spots, some bad spots. A lot more bad than bright. Um, I ain't watched most of the shows. Arrow, I watched that after the show went off. Same thing for Supergirl. I didn't. I'm watching Supergirl and I saw a character that I knew was coming. I wanted to watch that, which was Martian Manhunter. But then that led me to watching other videos, and then it led me to see Kara, the Supergirl. Was she ends up dating the girl. I wasn't down for that storyline. I was like, nah. So I just stopped watching that. Superman and Lois, I gave up after the first season. I was like, this is boring. They say it got better during season 2, but I'm not staying to watch. Nah, if I gotta stay in order for something to get good, nah. I watch your Legends. I go back to it every now and then. It's not a bad show.
I mean, how often does the world almost come to an end? Oh, it's like that.
Since 2012, there's been no better or more consistent superhero universe on television than the Arrowverse, at one point ballooning to 6 TV shows on the air simultaneously, all weaving an interconnected story. Sure, Marvel has had the Netflix shows and some stop and starts with things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and Inhumans, but the network adventures of DC's finest have taken the cake week in and week out. And yet, there's a yawning maw of uncertainty surrounding the crown jewel of the CW. The brainchild of Hollywood super producer Greg Berlanti is seemingly on the verge of extinction. Why?
We can't save everyone, Clark.
The moment I believe that is when I stop trying.
Starting in October of 2001, Smallville, a TV show aimed at teens, shifted the paradigm of what comic book properties could do on TV. Following the early days of Clark Kent's life in his titular hometown, Smallville was sexy, successful, and made a lot of money for its network, the WB. In fact, when the network rebranded as the CW in May of 2009, the series was renewed for 3 additional seasons to help bolster the bottom line. After Smallville came to an end in 2011, the CW was keen to recreate the magic. They greenlit an adaptation of the popular Smallville supporting character, Green Arrow, for his own show. The show would be a darker and more brooding version of the character. In fact, you could almost say he wasn't the Green Arrow, he was Batman.
Well, you know us billionaire vigilantes. We do love our toys.
In the comics, Green Arrow is known for being a street-level character with a wry sense of humor, iconic green tights, and hopeful view for the future. In Arrow, Oliver Queen was dark, tortured, and brooding. Yes, the pilot adapted from the acclaimed Andy Diggle and Jock Year One story, but the show quickly developed its own personality. Instead of attempting to slavishly recreate Smallville's success, Arrow opted for a mix of primetime soap and pulp street-level vigilante narratives. Much of the production crew carried over from Smallville to Arrow, but the key factor in its early success was the brain trust who created the show. The very same brain trust behind Green Lantern. Yes, that Green Lantern.
The ring never makes a mistake.
This time it did.
You see, prior to the studio realizing it might not be the vehicle they all wanted it to be, Green Lantern was intended to launch the DC Cinematic Universe. However, we all know what happened there. It bombed. The plans for a DC universe on the big screen were delayed, and the creatives involved went to TV. Andrew Kreisberg, Greg Berlanti, and Mark Guggenheim all are credited as the creators of Arrow. As soon as Arrow had proven that it had legs and wasn't going anywhere, the Brain Trust's immediate goal was to set up more shows. They wanted to recreate the magic of the DC universe, the promise of an interconnected tapestry of superhero narratives on TV. Starting at around Arrow's 3rd season, they accomplished their goal. Berlanti and Kreisberg worked with DC bigwig Jeff Johns to create a vehicle for the Scarlet Speedster.
I'm Barry Allen. No! What does that mean? How can this...
This should be impossible now.
The Flash, who had previously had a 1-season TV show in the 1990s, was primed to appeal to younger audiences that the CW was gunning for. Actor Grant Gustin was cast in the part and appeared in 2 soft backdoor pilot cameos on Arrow prior to getting his own show. Much like the Arrowverse's version of Green Arrow, the Flash underwent some major character surgery as well. Barry Allen, the Silver Age version of the character, was a stern crime scene.
That was crazy how his friend never found out he was a Flash. There was moments I thought he was going to tell him.
Investigator. hit by lightning in a laboratory and given the ability to run faster than any human
about the
alive.
ninth show.
In the comics, his nephew Wally West, a wisecracking speedster with a heart of gold, took up the mantle when Barry died. For the show, they combined these two versions of the Flash into the Arrowverse version of Barry. Premiering in North America on October 7, 2014, the pilot was the second most watched premiere in the history of the CW, right after Vampire Diaries. Needless to say, the
Vampire Diaries
Arrowverse was
was good
off
at
to the
first.
races.
But again, I
Think
watched
you can keep up,
too much.
Girl of Steel?
Oh,
What's
just
the
you
problem?
watch Scarlet
And I didn't like
Speedster.
it.
Supergirl landed at CBS, but the network
you know how
decided
it
to
is.
cancel the show. Thankfully, it got picked up at the CW. And now, with 3 live-action shows on the network, a reasonable person would assume they'd slow down on superhero programming due to market oversaturation. Well, that person would be wrong. While these shows kept churning out tights and fights adventures, the CW greenlit 3 new shows: The Legends of Tomorrow, Batwoman, and Black Lightning.
Black Lightning
During
was
this
good.
era of the CW-verse, the brain
watched
trust of
Black
writers and
Lightning.
producers began
The first,
attempting to perfect a
second,
recreation
and
of the
some
comic
of the
book
third
crossover.
season.
Large universe spanning stories that take advantage
might
of
have
the
went
large
past the third
ensemble
season.
and colorful
I just
characters.
ain't got to.
You got shanghaied into another crossover, didn't you?
Initially, these shows would stage these crossovers as single one-off episodes, like the Arrow Season 3 episode The Brave and the Bold, or the Arrow Season 4 episode Haunted, which featured John Constantine. However, these one-off crossovers eventually developed
what was
into
it?
event series
White
that the
Canary?
audience would have to view in sequential order.
she had
And
died,
as
and they
insane as
wanted to
this
bring her
sounds,
back.
this didn't just happen once. It happened 7 times.
then she,
Flash
the
vs. Arrow,
consciousness
Heroes Join
wasn't
Forces, Invasion, Crisis on Earth X, Elseworlds, Crisis on Infinite Earths, and Armageddon.
Crisis on
is
Infinite
5
Earths
parts
is the
long,
best.
across 5 TV shows.
Sometimes you just have to slow down.
As these shows continued to merge and evolve, the CW would greenlight Superman and Lois, and Naomi. At this point, you can probably see the writing on the wall. How much
Naomi.
is too much? The
Naomi,
shows began to overtake
it was
each other.
weird.
They were
It was
all
a weird
stylistically
show.
similar, all aiming for the same
like
demographics, and
a
all
pop-
suffering from the same
pop
problem:
girl.
artificially manufactured status quos. Much like their comic book predecessors, the shows started to alienate their core supporters by not allowing their characters to change or their status quos to grow and evolve. How many times can Barry run so fast he turns time backwards? How many times can there be a new Green Arrow or different colored Canary? And then, as it is inevitable with all things, the good times started to come to an end.
An end.
And a beginning.
First, it was Arrow coming to an end and the spin-off series not being picked up. Then Supergirl dipping in the ratings and being canceled after season 6. Then they gave the axe to Black Lightning. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of change-ups in the media landscape. One of the largest has been AT&T's sale of Warner Brothers to Discovery. Because of this corporate restructuring, in May of 2022, the Discovery higher-ups decided to completely overhaul the CW. Ultimately, in a shocking twist of events, CW canceled 7 of its primetime programs, with an eye on a near-complete overhaul of the network's identity.
You look like the attractive yet non-threatening racially diverse cast of a CW show.
Currently, there are 2 CW-verse shows on the air that take place in the Berlanti shared universe. The Flash, which is about to enter its final season, and Superman and Lois, which seems to be performing very well and is striking a chord with Superman fans. These shows are the final vestiges of the greatest shared TV universe ever put to
Flash
film.
is ending.
It's a sad reality that when
Years.
bottom lines tighten,
Seems like
it's often the fans and the creative
If not,
community
maybe
who
2
come
years.
away hurting.
It's been-
However, it is resoundingly impressive that what started out as a let's see if we can riff off of Smallville show birthed hundreds of hours worth of television. It's just a shame that this superhero universe went the way of so many others. They became overly complicated, self-involved, and refused to evolve. If there's one thing we know about superheroes, however, it's that even when they're dead, they always come back. What do you think? Will the CW-verse be reborn at another time? Let us know down in the
I think it's gonna be too late. Like the character's gonna be old, and it'd be like a reunion, but it'd be like, come on, it could have happened 20 years ago. I'm not trying to see old Flash, new young Flash. That'd be crazy because we did that already.